Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's Comic Book Geeks podcast. I am one of your hosts, JW Sims. We also have, oh, Demon Phil with us tonight. How you
What's
doing?
up?
And Specs will be with us shortly, hopefully. He usually comes in late, so we'll see which one of him we get this time. Sometimes we get the clone, and sometimes we get the real Specs. And but crazy week so far. We do have two guests to be on later tonight. First of all, we have KAYDEN PHOENIX. She'll be on. She has a book on Kickstarter right now called A La Brava. I have to say it like that, or it'll come out weird. And it's the first Latina first ever Latina superhero team. So
Interesting.
we'll talk to her about that and some other things. And then Braden Cox will be on. He just started fulfilling of his book. It was nobody. I got it right this time, which is sad because, I've worked on that book. But yeah. So, was there anything you wanted to start the show to talk about tonight?
Well, first thing, if you're listening in and you can't see me, I am in attire that would go ahead and represent how hot it is outside nowadays. So behind me are the flames of basically hell with the beast behind me and everything, and that is still not as hot as it is outside. So that's why I'm dressed the way that I am, minus the sweating. So we're going to save y'all all that. But that would explain my attire on here tonight. But aside from that, what I've been doing here lately, I mean, I am hooked on the boys. I cannot stray away from there enough. I'm not going to do spoilers. I know you haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
But people have been saying it's some of the best writing they've seen in the industry as far as comic related series and stuff like that. And I'm very particular whenever I hear things like that. But watching it, I'm going to tell you right now, be ready to be amazed at what they're doing with this. I don't know how they're coming up with what they do and how they keep coming up with ideas, but it's working. And that is one you get hooked on. But keep in mind, and I cannot stress this enough, do not watch it if you're easily offended by anything. Anything.
It's true, because they don't pull punches on that show.
Oh no, they go down a checklist. If there's something they think you might be offended by, they're going to go down a checklist and mark that thing off on different episodes. I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I haven't watched that yet, but I did finish watching Obi-Wan last week. I had a drink and it disappeared on me. I know you haven't watched Obi-Wan yet, right?
I have watched, I think, the first 3 or 4 episodes. Something like that.
So you just have the last couple to watch,
right? Which are the key ones?
Yeah, like a lot. I always say, I'm an old person. I grew up. I went through how many 30 years without a Star Wars anything. So, I've liked almost everything I've seen since then. And I know a lot of people were complaining about the way that Obi-Wan was going, but I really liked, without ruining anything, the final episode really tied a lot of stuff into like the A New Hope, and especially with Leia, like you see a lot of things that call back to her in other movies, which I've realized like throughout when I went back and watched it again, there's a lot of callbacks during the episodes with her to the other movies, like just with what she's wearing, the way her hair's done, and just certain lines she says, like comes back later on in the movies. So I liked it. There's like talk there might be a second season. I don't know what that would be like really, but it was interesting too to see Vader again, but a young Vader, so he's not like quite as strong in the Force, and he's still like that Anakin reckless kind of angers easily and stuff. So,
and what I really like in this is if you're not aware, Vader is played by Hayden Christensen. He is wearing the costume and going through there, so you can't see him, of course. And of course, like I said, I've only seen the first 4 episodes, so you never see the person behind it or anything. but to know that it's Hayden Christensen and that
Yeah.
he's, face to face with Obi-Wan in a couple of episodes there, it's very interesting to know, how much history is brought back to the characters on there without going out of character. So I think they did a very good job from what I've seen so far. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah. When they first said he was coming back to play Vader, I was like, oh, so they're gonna like do flashbacks or something.
Right.
And then I saw that he was actually in the suit. I was like, well, that's cool. Like that he's actually playing Vader. Like he's not just, doing like little snippet parts or when they show him without the suit or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there is a cool part in the final episode where during the final battle where they take his voice and James Earl Jones' voice and combine them. So it's like you can hear his voice, but then you also hear the James. So you hear his real voice, but then the James Earl Jones voice comes through. It's like almost echoey. It's really cool. But yeah, have you watched any of Miss Marvel yet? That's the other big thing.
Miss Marvel, I watched the first 2 episodes so far, so that's what I've gotten into on that.
Yeah, I think was there 3 episodes? I know a new episode came out today. I didn't watch it
Only
yet.
3.
Yeah. So I didn't watch today's episode yet. I like it, but of course it's not written for us, so it's like
Right.
It's a teen girl type show that I think it's cute, it's fun. What I like about the Disney Plus MCU movies or shows, they're all like different.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you watch the MCU movies, for the most part, it's pretty much, at least especially like the first 3 phases, it was all pretty much cut and dry. This is like they were like the same kind of movie. It's just the characters changed and things like that. And not until you got to like Guardians of the Galaxy, that was more of a comedy kind of thing, and
Right.
Ant-Man, and then you had Doctor Strange, a little bit different. So I like that each of these shows you can go back and see, well, this was like more like this style, and this one's like this style. Where the only one that's really been like MCU-ish, I think, was Hawkeye. Like that was the only one,
Right?
that kind of.
But you got to figure that Ms. Marvel is the predecessor to the new era of the Avengers, because it'll be the young Avengers that they're going after in this, which is actually very smart whenever you think about it, because if they would have introduced all of the MCU to the younger generation too early, they wouldn't have people going back going, I haven't seen these movies before, let me go back and watch them.
Yeah.
And then you get all that again, all over again. It's almost like the whole Star Wars thing where you go and you say, here's a chunk of it, we're going to show you a chunk here, and now you got to go all the way back and get caught up.
Yeah.
So I think it's very smart in how they're doing it, and as long as they do the Young Avengers correctly, that is a huge chunk that they can get off of the property there, if it's done the right way. I cannot stress that enough.
I going back to Multiverse of Madness, a lot of people with that, because I'm a big Scarlet Witch person, and I told them I have a feeling that they're going to somehow bring the Wanda with the kids into the MCU, because I need those 2 kids for the Young Avengers.
Yes.
So somehow I think she's going to be the Scarlet Witch. That's how they'll fix that.
I completely agree. Before we move on too much longer, Grant Lankard is in here saying, hey guys. So, hey Grant, appreciate
you. Grant, yeah. Yeah, but, I sometimes miss all that stuff because
oh no, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, there's a lot going on with that. There's been a lot of news on different things with the MCU and things that are happening. I know one thing that we can kind of briefly go over, because there's hardly any information except for the leaked information on it, is Blade. Mm-hmm. And it was leaked that, of course, Marvel has an unnamed movie for 2023. Late 2023 at that. So they're looking at the Labor Day weekend release like they normally do. And now it is filled, is what they said. And then shortly afterwards, they showed a teaser for Blade. And I'm talking about just he walks through and then the Blade logo behind type thing.
Yeah.
That would be right in time for the Halloween crew, because yes, it's coming out earlier than Halloween, but it will definitely stay through Halloween and keep playing. That is a major announcement on their part, because that could lead into a lot more in the MCU again with some possibilities there, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do new with Blade, because I'm old school. Wesley Snipes was Blade to me. I mean, he filled that role as much as, Tony Stark was filled with that one. I mean, it's just, it worked. So Mahershala Ali has got big shoes to fill on this one, and I want to see what he can do.
Especially when, Wesley Snipes could have probably just came back and played Blade again. Because he's not 70 years old.
Exactly.
And he's still, but there was something. Oh, it's like we got into a discussion the one time. It must have been somewhere around the time, maybe last fall, last summer. Somebody was saying about how if it wasn't for Spider-Man, the old Sony, the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man, we wouldn't have these movies today. And then someone goes, no, it was the X-Men. And I was like, no, it was Blade.
Yes.
Until Blade, we had crappy superhero movies.
And not only that, but it was the R-rated version of it. So you could see mature-rated comics in live action with Blade out there with Wesley Snipes doing the work, and it worked. And he didn't get enough credit for that. And like you said, a lot of people were like, well, Iron Man started it, or, Spider-Man. No, it was Blade all the way.
Yeah, because that showed studios that they could make comic book movies and make money off of them, which until that point, most of ours were straight to video if we're lucky.
Exactly.
A lot of them never even came out. We had that big lull between the Batman movies, and then by the time Blade came out. So
exactly.
But that was. I thought maybe Specs would be here by now, but I guess not. So I guess we can talk about some comics.
I think we had a few to go over, so we can do this.
Yeah. So before we get to the main books, I know you had a couple that you wanted to read. I mean, I've been reading. I don't know. Like I've told everybody last week, I've been reading, going back through and finally catching up on a lot of my stuff. So I had. What the heck is that? Gunslinger Spawn that I've been reading, and I don't know. I think Todd does write that one, but it's replaced Spawn. The regular Spawn is my favorite. I just love that character, how because he's a man out of time, and I always like that kind of stories. And so, in the first issue, his motorcycle runs out of gas, and he has no idea what that is. So he's going to kill the kid because he thinks the kid's messing with him. And then, in is it the second issue, the toilet? There's a scene where the toilet.
Yes.
He's like, "What is this?" And he's like, "It's a toilet." Well, I can see that, but why is it in your house?
Exactly.
don't you want your house to smell like shit?
Yep.
Oh, look, Specs is here, so Specs can join us now, just in time to start talking comics.
What's up, man?
How you doing, Specs?
Pretty good.
You missed our beginning part where we were talking about some of the just stuff that's been going on in comics. Was there any news or anything that you wanted to talk about this week before we get into comics?
Nah, not on top. Just the boys. Y'all talk about that yet?
We haven't talked spoilers, but we've just how good it is. I'll probably watch it this weekend because I think I'll be home finally and be able to just sit back and watch a bunch of crap.
Well, okay, no spoilers then. Well, I did finally see Doctor Strange, and I think my internet connection is gonna mess me up.
I think that's a running thing tonight because mine went off right before the show started and then came back on. So what do you think of Doctor Strange?
Right back. Come on.
All right. Speak amongst yourself. Let me give you a topic. Why do we park on a driveway and drive on a parkway? Discuss. I would like to know that, though. Also, why do dogs hate when you blow in their faces, but as soon as they get in the car going down the highway, they stick the head out the window?
That's very true.
What are you... Well, anyway, so what book did you read? Were you reading this week?
So the couple of books that I had chosen, one was Beware the Eye of Odin. And that's mainly because I'm big into the whole Viking, Celtic, and mythology and all that kind of stuff. So just the name of it alone caught my attention. And then the other one was Samurai Sonia. But to start off with Beware the Eye of Odin. There have been so many books about Thor and Odin and Loki. And of course, with the MCU doing their thing and everything, more and more people are coming out with them. So was I happy with this book and the way that it was done? Absolutely, because it was a different version of it. It was almost like these people heard the stories of Odin, heard the stories of Thor and, the frost giants and things like that. They thought they were never true until it kind of just starts into the fact that the Eye of Odin is there. You don't know if it's a mistake, if it's accident, if it's fate, or whatever it is. But the lore goes that whoever takes the Eye of Odin has to go ahead and give it to its rightful bearer, or they die by the first full moon. A very painful and terrible death at that. And I'm not going to go ahead and bring that all up, but it is definitely expanded in there. The story is very cool because your main character takes off. He's got a side character that goes with him that you would think wouldn't happen because he's got one arm, and this is a warrior's route they're going on. He's an ex-warrior, that's why he's only got one arm. But everybody kind of messes with him like, you can't be doing this. You no longer have a good arm. You can't do the fight. And then a woman joins that pronounces herself as a Valkyrie, even though, of course, she's not, because she's got fake, feathers on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's a very good story showing the value of friendship and what it means to actually back your brother's play no matter what. And this is only book one. I definitely want to keep going with this series. So this gets a demon seal of approval on this one. I need everyone else to check this one out. If you like mythology and all, it is definitely a good one to get.
Nice. And the second book was
and the second
Samurai
book,
Sonia. So that's like a Red Sonia samurai book, right?
It's actually, that's what I thought as well. I thought it was going to be Red Sonia, but as a samurai, it's a different character altogether. So I don't understand the
Sonia part
of it, unless it's just because it is the same publishing company, with it and all. But I will say the story is good. I enjoyed the premise of the story because basically she is dying at one point, and she pronounces to one of the goddesses that as long as she saves her, that she'll go ahead and tackle the evil that's in the world. And the goddess is like, you can do that, and I'll give you all the tools to do that, but there's a cost, and that cost is you will not have a name, you will not have a legacy when you die. Now, when you think about it, in Japanese lore and everything, the only thing that you got to carry with you through life and death is your name and your legacy.
Yeah. Because
so giving up everything for that.
Yeah, because in Japan, your name, your family name is so important. That's your first name. Like
exactly.
Your family name comes before your personal. Like your
exactly. Now, I will say, I did have one problem with the book, and that is the fact that as you're going through, there is an instance where she starts battling like a giant skeleton. The problem that I had with that is it's probably a good 8 or 10 pages, and the only dialogue that's on there looks like it comes from the old Batman series where it's oof and bam and bop and bam, and I need more. I need something where it says, the sword barely, touched her skin and she rubbed it off and then she went to hit him with another, searing blow. Yeah. Something needs to be in there, not just the biff bomb boom. You need some
narration.
Exactly. Yeah. So it really kind of lost me on that, which is unfortunate. And for that, I probably won't be following that series, which is very surprising to me, actually, because normally something like that I definitely would, and it kind of lost my attention.
I'm trying to think of what There were so many books this week. I think I read a bunch of them today. I think one of the ones that we decided to read was the second issue of. Oh, my brain's gonna go. Highway. What is it called? I can bring it up.
The Devil's Highway.
Devil's Highway, Volume 2, Number 2.
Yes.
Now this, I remember we reviewed the first book of this not too long ago when it first came out, and this one, I think it gave us a little bit more backstory into some of it. It seemed like, because we see that I'm terrible with people's names. I should really start writing them down. But the female character, kind of understand why she has a noose tattooed under her arm now.
Mm-hmm.
And we see a little bit more about the bodies that were laid out in the Z formation, kind of, that we know it was this masked guy. I don't know, the Russian girl called Devil in Russian. I can't remember what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting. And like obviously, then they get the two main characters get framed for a murder. So that's how the book ends, where them trying to get away from the police, and something happens to them where they're kind of stuck now. So, what did you think of this one? I like this issue a little bit more than the first one.
Right.
I think that first one just seemed like there was stuff missing. Like it was like, what is going on? But I think this one fills in a little bit more, and we can get into the story and see a little bit more behind the characters.
What I'm seeing on this is it's almost being written like a movie script would be. The first issue was more of the in your face, bam, and here's the action, and here's what we're dealing with here. And then you go to the middle portion, in a trilogy, you go to your second movie on there, and it's all about the storyline. And then the third one, of course, is the conflict and resolution. And it kind of looks like it's going in that direction from what I'm seeing so far. Not that it's a bad thing by any means. Like you said, I enjoyed the second one, so at least it redeemed itself from the first one. They were able to answer some questions on there, but still leave some things to the imagination, which is good, because that makes it where I want to pick up, the next book whenever it comes out as well. So it's definitely one to keep your eyes on while it's out there.
Yeah. And then I know John's not on here now, but he wanted us to keep reviewing and keep talking about the Dark Crisis books. So we had two new installments into that this week: Dark Crisis Young Justice, number 1, and The Flash, number 783, and that was a tie-in to the Dark Crisis thing. I don't know if it's because I didn't read the stuff before Dark Crisis, because it's just so much of it that some of this stuff I'm like trying to catch up. It feels like I'm trying to catch up to the story.
Exactly.
Like, all I know is the Justice League is dead. So, but I don't know how they died. Obviously, Barry died differently than they did, because they're going into the Speed Force to try to find him again. Like, didn't we do this story in the first Crisis? So there's that. The Young Justice book I really liked, because I'm a more of a like the Young Justice, Teen Titans type fan, and it's like calling back to the old Young Justice book that Todd Nauck and them did, like was it the late 90s, early 2000s. So it's like calling back to that book a little bit, especially when they meet up with the main villain in that book, in that story, the Mighty Endowed.
Right.
So, and I love, like, the smoke was just put perfectly so you couldn't see, and she would hypnotize you with her boobs. And I was like, this is a DC book?
Yeah, they and I'm exactly like you are. I'm kind of looking at it going, I've never seen DC do something to this level like this. You can almost see where they're trying to reach out and change things. Is it going to work for them? Is it going to hurt them? There's a lot of turmoil in that company right now, and I think they're trying a lot of things that may or may not work, because they're having a lot of trouble even in the movie side of it.
Yeah.
Not to get into politicals on that one, but Ezra, he's messed that one up something fierce. So we'll have to see how they recover on that end. But they have so much going on, And all the while, Disney is pushing MCU to newer, higher levels. It may not always be exactly what everybody wants to see out there, but their consistency through Disney is unparalleled right now.
Yeah. I mean, you just look at just the Disney Plus stuff. I mean, we're getting 4 new shows every year. It seems like it's like show, movie, show, movie, show. Like that's kind of. But Specs is in this chat since he's not able to actually be here, and he says that all the storylines are canon and all the DC characters are back alive also since Infinite Frontier. Well, they're not all back alive now. Like they killed off the Justice League. Yeah, so it the Flash one I'm still kind of about. Like I like the Flash, but I'm just because I think I've missed a lot of that story, and I'm trying to like figure it out and who everybody is, and
Exactly.
like how did Wally get his wife and kids back, and I'm just.
And the problem with the Flash, because of all the different flashpoints and the time travel stuff, if you miss something there, there's no telling where
they are
tapered off somewhere, because all you got to do is think about what it could possibly be, and I'm sure there's a book out there going with that storyline because it's already happened.
Yeah. But then that brings us to our 3 books of the week. The first one we'll take is Alice Ever After #3. This actually came out the week before. We were supposed to review it, and we didn't talk about it last week, so I figured we'd just bring it back this week. Actually, I don't think I uploaded it last week is what the problem was. I just forgot it. But that is on the issue 3. We had talked about issues 1 and 2 earlier. Issue 3, that's a Dan Panosian who writes that book. He also draws the Alice in Wonderland parts of the book. This chapter seemed to focus more on Alice in the asylum and not so much Wonderland, except for we see who the Cheshire Cat is.
Right.
And it's a lot of liquid heroin in this issue. That we find out that's her medicine, and why and how she became addicted to it, which is kind of sad, actually.
But more importantly, I enjoyed reading this issue because it actually answered the question of why does she want to go to Wonderland instead of staying in the real world?
Yeah.
And that is as twisted as an answer as it could possibly be off of
I know. It was dark.
Oh my gosh. I looked at it and I was like, wow, y'all really came up with that? That's impressive.
And the thing is, though, it's a real thing that happened then. Like, that's like, because rich people wanted real teeth for their dentures, and there's only one way to get it. Like, so that was kind of how they did it. But I really like this. I know it's only a 5-issue, so I think we have 2 more issues to go. I'm interested to see where it goes. I would like to know, like, is this supposed to be a direct, like, sequel to Alice in Wonder, like Through the Looking Glass? Because it takes place in that same house, except for now she's older instead of a little girl. But they show her as the little girl. And if you remember back in the first issue, she said she returned. So she had been there before. So was it like when her dad, when she was little, and gave her that medicine?
See, I'm wondering
when she started to go. Like,
I'm wondering if she's even older now, or if that's a mind trip that she's thinking that she is because she's stuck in there so much. Because remember, whenever she was eating the cake, and the Cheshire Cat kept saying, last time it did this for you, but this time, what's it going to do? And she would take it, whatever, and she'd grow smaller, bigger, whatever. But whenever she did the last one, he was like, I don't know what this is going to do for you. That to me almost looks like it's the foreshadowing of, we don't know what's going on with this. We think we have a grasp on what's going on in Wonderland, but we don't even know what's going on in reality or Wonderland in this series. And that's why we keep going through it. And I like the way it's being written this way. And I was kind of surprised that I actually enjoyed it as much, because the last time that I reviewed the first one, whenever it was on here, I didn't care for it as much because it was little snippets everywhere. It didn't it was breadcrumbs, and that's all they did. and I didn't enjoy the way that was written for that. But now that I see further into it how they're tying into those breadcrumbs, it's working very well. So I'm kind of impressed by it.
What Spec says, I think that was Origin, her dad giving her the medicine. Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. I think that's like when she, yeah, like, is that the first Alice in Wonderland stories we get? Is it when she was a kid and her dad gave her the medicine? You know, so that's kind of an interesting thing. So the next book we did was, if I can find it, Elvira in Horrorland, issue number 2. So I'm really liking these books.
Oh,
I don't know if anybody maybe it's because we're older and we're used, and they even mention Mad Magazine in this one, which I loved.
Exactly.
Because that's what it reminds me I'm reading, like one of those spoofs that Mad Magazine would do. And in this issue they do The Shining, and I love how he starts just quoting the Joker the whole way through it when he gets crazy.
Well, he was quoting all of these Stanley Kubrick things and then quoting all of these Jack Nicholson quotes, and it was like, man, this is great. You're just throwing all this in there into the story, and Elvira just kept going with it with their comedical side, and it was amazing.
The writer, which I can't remember offhand because I don't have it in front of me, he captures Elvira perfectly. I don't know if she sits there with it. He writes and tells this is how I would react to this, but it's really good. He goes, I'm just confused. So is it the movie world or a movie set? It's a little bit of both. It's actually in the movie, the characters don't know that they're in a movie, but they still have directors and stuff. So it's a little bit of both, I guess. It's because I like that part when Stanley Kubrick comes out and gives Jack the axe. Yeah. He's like, no one's going to ruin my movie. And then whenever she finally finds what Jack Torrance is writing that whole time, and it just says the miniseries was better.
Oh my gosh, that was great though. But I mean, that also comes from whenever if you're actually a part of, you've actually watched the movies or in that era, you catch a lot more of that than if you don't understand it, if that makes sense. So the snippets that are in there and the little things that they put in there, it's amazing, because I looked at it going, I remember this movie in this. I remember this part in this. I remember whenever Elvira said this in one of her movies or one of her shows. Yeah. And a lot of that's thrown in there for nostalgia's sake, and it's really working for the series and very fun in that. And the whole looking for the remote control.
She calls it the MacGuffin the whole time, which is great because that's all it is.
Exactly. I mean, that is hilarious all by itself right there, because whenever she goes in there, she's like, I would have thought, they would have a TV room or something like that. And of course, Jack Nicholson's character is like, I don't even know what a TV is. And she's like, I'm pretty sure I thought you would have known what a TV is. And then, of course, they tell her to go to room 2001. Really? Like 2001. That's what they're going to. Yeah. So it was great how they just tied everything in. It was a very fun ride. I'm having a blast with this and can't wait until next month when we get the next one.
Aliens is issue 3, or Alien, I guess. Yeah. So this will be interesting. I'm what's going to be because they're working their way up through, so I was like, what's the one after Alien going to be? We going to get into some Nightmare on Elm Street stuff?
I don't know how mainstream characters they're going to be able to go with unless they get, the rights to do so. But taking the Stanley Kubrick thing as much as they did, and Jack Nicholson,
they just have been
on that.
What they call him, Nick Torrance, Torrance instead.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm sure they'll find ways. Then our last book of the week was, let me find it here, The Illusion Witch.
Yes.
That's Romero.
Yep. Ruben Romero.
Ruben, yeah. So he's the one who wrote that. That's from Behemoth. This is a story about a girl who her father taught her illusion magic, not just regular magic. He taught her illusions because they're but when she was little, and it's just about her. Like he dies, and she doesn't deal well with this stuff, like in her life, and I guess near the end, some supernatural stuff comes in. I was confused for a little bit there, and I was like, when did this become like a fantasy book? Because there was like this night guy fighting this demon. I'm like, wait, I didn't. So I'm not sure where we're going with that storyline, but obviously she's got to be the savior of the world. It seems like. But
and the three-headed demon on there is trying to get that power to use illusion, but of course not in a good way by any means. The story, I actually back this one. I actually have physical copies of books 1 and 2 on this, and absolutely love it. I cannot wait for 3 to come out. As soon as it does, I'm all over that one as well, just because I'm hooked on the series. It's a fun series because it's not your typical, I have powers, I can take on the world, I'm a superhero, that kind of thing. It's basically, I have powers, I really don't want to use them. I don't want people to see that I have them. I don't want people to think that I'm different. I know that I can take care of things whenever I need to, but I don't want to overdo it. And then there's also the thoughts of what's the accountability that goes with what I do. And I like that because it's almost got that Spider-Man vibe to it.
Where she still has to learn her lesson.
Exactly. So it's not just a let's throw powers around and see what happens and knock buildings down and everybody deals with whatever they deal with. It's got a lot more to it than that, and I really enjoy the way that the story is going with that, and I can see where it can build off of that quite a bit. So this is one you definitely want to keep your eyes on if you're watching.
Yeah. I like the play on words when she introduces her character, the illusion witch.
Yep.
So the illusionist. It's pretty neat. But those are our books for this week. We'll have to figure. I know at least one of the books that I picked up today that I'm going to be doing for next week is what I tell you it was the Public Domain by Chip Zdarsky. Because my local comic book store did not have very much to choose from today, so I'll have to scour through my files tomorrow and find out what else we want. But I think that's all the books we had, right?
I believe so. The only other one that I wanted to bring up very quickly. Last week I wasn't here, but we had a Calculating Man.
A Calculated Man.
I'm telling you right now, I read that thing. I am all over that series. I want to stay on top of that series. I have the complex where I play chess games in my head all the time with a lot of things that go on. And reading that book not only showed me that other people have that as well, it was the one time that I was able to actually read it and be totally comfortable reading. I was in so much peace and de-stressed. I cannot explain how it made me feel with that. Other people may read it and go, I cannot believe that, this de-stressed you, because there's a lot of, math equations and all kinds of stuff going across there. But it's a story that once it starts, it rounds itself. So you have to watch for where it starts to watch where it ends, because it goes right back full circle. And I didn't see it coming. And it doesn't happen very often that I do not see that coming.
Yeah, it was... At first, I read through the first time. I had to go back. I was like, what is the timeline on this book? Because it jumps a little bit. So it reminds me of watching, what the heck is that? I want to say Reservoir Dogs, but that's the wrong one. It's the other one. Pulp Fiction. How it starts in the middle and ends at the beginning. So it kind of does that. So you have to really pay attention as you're reading it. But I think it's time to bring our guests on for the night. Tonight, like I said, we do have 2 guests on. Our first guest is a writer, a director, and a creator of a comic book. Right now, she has a book on Kickstarter called A La Brava. I don't have it up right now. Did you have it up there, Phil?
I do not.
Okay, I did have it, and I accidentally closed it, but I'll bring it back up. But anyways, we'll bring KAYDEN PHOENIX on. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing tonight?
Hello.
I'm great. Hello. How are you? How are you both?
All right. We usually have more, but John's, I'm sure that I don't know if he told you, with his pet is sick. He just had to rush it to the vet.
Oh,
So he might be on later. And then Specs was having trouble with his internet. So I think he's here in the chat, but he's not on with us.
no
So
worries.
I am going to try to bring that up. I have so many things up. Okay. But so you want to tell everybody about your book while I...
Absolutely. Yeah, so I have Latina Superhero Universe, the first comic book team of Latinas in history. The book right now that is kickstarting is called A La Brava, which is the team origin of how they meet, and they become a team. The website is alabravauniverse.com, just so that, for the website, but the website itself that has all the other information is Latina Superheroes, plural.com. And so, yeah, there are Latino superheroes, they're each origin stories. Originally, they're each individual origin stories. And then, like I said, the last one that's out right now is the team up.
Nice. Yeah, so we have 2 weeks left of that. It's already reached its goal. So we'll be out. And so we know that we're at least going to get the book. That's always fun to know. I know I backed it. I can't wait to read this. I told John, like, it took me a while to decide because I actually want them all, but I can't afford all of them right now. So
Exactly.
yeah, because I was on the website that day looking through, and I was like, I guess I'd have to order these separately whenever, one at a time. But that's great. That means it's something I want to read. So, but we also have with us Braden Cox, who is a writer as well, author. And he has a book that he just fulfilled from Kickstarter called "It Was Nobody." I got it right this time. It was nobody. So we'll bring Braden on. Hello, Braden.
Hello. Hey, Phil.
See, we decided I did not have the name of the book wrong. We were just leaking out the sequel's name. So It Was Nothing is the sequel. We've decided that. We have.
Now you're already giving readers high hopes. Dang it!
Told you.
Now I gotta write another one. It was supposed to be a one-shot.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. But thank you both for being on the show. I know we're all creators here of some kind. I've done comics. Phil does a little of everything, I think. I mean, and then of course Braden's a writer. Kayden does a little bit of everything. But I know you guys are both to get into this industry have had struggles you've had to overcome. So I mean, we'll start with Kayden since she was here first. I know I don't know, but as a woman, I know it'd be hard to try to get into these industries. As you're a writer, a director, and now a comic book creator, which all of those are pretty much male-dominated fields. And so, and then not only are female, but you're a Latino, which already puts you in an even smaller, bracket, and then also LGBTQ community. So now it's even smaller. So. It's like just crushing down on you. So, what's some of the stuff that you've really had to overcome to be able to get where you are in the industry?
I don't look at it in that sense. So I'm very fortunate in that sense because it's just the way I've known life, And so I can't compare myself personally to say a white straight cis man. Like I don't know that because I haven't had that experience. So it's all, it's just you always have to do it yourself, right? Like I don't have a seat at the table, no matter what I do. I will never have a seat at the table, but I can create my own table, which is what I do. So here's my own superheroes, right? I self-publish, I hire my people, I fire my people, right? I do the marketing, I show up to Comic Cons, etc. Right? But that's my table and I own that table and no one can take that table away from me. Yeah. And so that's kind of been my approach. And it's been really it's been really good and actually very well accepted. Like, here and there you get the little whatever people, the haters. But majority of people, I've been very welcoming. Because they understand the need for for a Latino superhero, for a queer Latino superhero, or whatever.
Yeah, that was interesting. You just said that about owning the table. I just saw something today on ESPN because they've been doing a lot of Title IX stuff, and they had 3 of the women from the U.S. soccer team. I can't remember their names because I'm terrible at names. But they were talking. Yeah, she was one of them, and she said about about how long it took for them to be able get a spot at the table because the men's soccer. But she goes, but why can't we own the table? And that was the same. Like it's the same thing. Like I mean, those women have had to fight and fight and fight just to come close to what in this day and age. It's like seriously, more people watch women's soccer than men's soccer. So I don't know what.
Yeah, and the women's team actually wins. Like,
since
the Olympics, like literally, the girls win no matter what. The Olympics, like obviously the World Cup, just win.
Yeah, and the men are like, oh, we might make the World Cup this year.
Yeah, we might make the finals. Yeah, seriously, and then we get out of the but yeah, good for them though. I'm very, they fought for it and they sadly had to fight. But yeah, at least we have the slightly equality in that sense.
And Braden, I know you have written. I mean, I don't know everything about you because I don't have somebody like John who comes on and tells me about Kayden all the time. So I said Kayden's like a unofficial member of the show because John talks about her all the time. But and he's not here tonight to because he usually does all the talking for me, right, Phil?
Yeah, for everybody, honestly, for all 3 of us, like you just keep talking and just answer.
Yeah, that's how he gives. But so it was Nobody, right? Yeah. Want to tell us a little bit about that book?
So It Was Nobody's a heartfelt horror. Growing up, my family did a bit of foster care, and we would hear these like horror stories, like of these poor kids. Like one of the kids, we got him. He was in an arm. He had a cast on because his parents got so mad at him that they broke his arm because they couldn't deal with him crying all the time. And we would just hear all these horror stories. And growing up, to avoid getting in trouble, we would always say, my dad would be like, "Who did this?" And we'd be like, "No one did it." And so like the idea kind of stems from stuff of my childhood. But It Was Nobody. It's a heartfelt horror. It's about this child who has tried to get help and no one wants to help him. So he ends up befriending an entity named Nobody who ends up, helping him. And I don't know. Do you want me to talk about my other books too?
Yeah, yes. Go ahead. I mean, I didn't get a chance to let Phil read the other ones yet, but I don't know. He might have read it. Have you read Sever, Phil?
I can't remember if I have. I don't think so, because I think whenever I had Braden on my show, I think we talked about it with Nobody.
So my first series I wrote was Reclaiming Godhood. I have 3 issues of that. We'll get more into that later, but that's actually one of the books that kind of drove me away for a while before I came back. And then Sever, I released about 6 months ago. It's an LGBTQ horror romance with heavy metal influences, and it's about this heavy metal band that started by all these girls that are friends, and their drummer gets in a car accident and is pronounced dead, and then she shows up 3 years later, and they're trying to figure out what's going on because she was supposed to be dead. So she just shows up, and it's just like what's happening? But then you find out that there's like this power hungry necromancer cult, and then it gets a lot more fun from there.
Nice.
And that was also a one shot, right?
No, so this is it was going to be a 3-part book, but I'm thinking I'm just going to make the whole trade and then just release it as a trade.
Nice. Very cool. I love it. But the coloring on that cover is not as good as the coloring on the other book. I'll just say.
I feel that there's some bias here, but
no, there's no bias because obviously I didn't do it because that guy's name is James Sims with 2 M's. That's not me. That wasn't me. That was my cousin from somewhere. I don't know. Between you and Travis, no one will even know who I am because nobody gets my name right.
It was Nobody.
It was
Exactly.
Nobody colored this.
There you go. Well, I mean, I got a couple of questions I want to go over as well. I am familiar with Braden's work with It Was Nobody. I was able to interview him a little bit on a show prior to, but I want to ask you another question as well on that. But beforehand, since Kayden, I'm not as familiar with your work, I went on and looked at your campaign. It's great, by the way. I like the way it's presented in there. It's a very it's not an in-your-face political campaign, shall we say. It's more of a, let's get back to having fun and enjoying what comics really are. And that's what I want to kind of bring up is, how do you actually get a voice more so out there for that issue of it? Of, you want to be able to put the passion into your work and have that be the emphasis, not everything else, if that makes sense.
The question is, how do I get my information out there? Or
how do you get more of a voice to go ahead and get more of a influence out there to more people?
Social media is really my main thing. That's why I'm on social media, honestly. But like my Kickstarter got funded in a week. That's really amazing, especially now with all the inflation and craziness, But it's like, because I post on social media, I have social media. I'm not a social media, a crowdfunding manager as well. So like they did the video, they did all the extra stuff. I just had to post, which is my job. But I have 5 Instagrams, and they're all for different little things and like different businesses and whatnot. But my Facebook, the Twitter is still, I only just repost whatever. And so it's just that's how you get your voice out. That's how I get my voice out, and it works, and it's free, right? Because it's free. It's all free marketing. So might as well utilize it. And then your friends repost you, which is really nice, or, just strangers repost you, which is great. So it's just exponential, right? Just little spider webs. And so that's kind of how I get my voice out there, because I get press. I'm lucky here and there. I do get press, like for cons more so, a little bit for the Kickstarters. But that definitely helps out a lot, because they obviously have a much bigger range than my range within the Instagram or the Facebook or whatnot.
Right. And this is your first book that you're doing here, or is this, you've already done other ones, you said, with the Origins?
Yeah, this is my 6th book, actually.
Okay, so this is the first one of the team, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. Have you gone to cons and promoted the books as of yet, or have you done that? You have?
Well, in 2019, my first book came out. That was Jalisco, the Dancer. And so that was in September, I guess, of 2019. And then LA Comic-Con invited me. And that was just with my one book that I had. And it didn't come in on time, so I had to hurry up and make coloring books here in the US. And so it's technically a coloring book, graphic novel. But I did really great there. I got some press. Disney brought me in. Warner Brothers brought me in. Netflix brought me in as well. And then by then it was already March. And then we were on lockdown. And so I continued with my books. So I obviously no more cons. Every con was on pause, but I had WonderCon in San Diego. They invited me from Instagram. They found me on Instagram. And so that was obviously not anymore. And then recently last year, it opened up again slightly. So I had Comic-Con special edition. That was on Thanksgiving weekend. And then the following weekend was LA Comic-Con. So I got more press on that. I got my LA Times, and I got my managers and all that extra stuff. And so that WonderCon just happened as well. So Long Beach as well at the beginning on the 2019 round. So those are my main ones right now. I have Comic-Con next month. And then I have 2E2, New York Comic-Con, Emerald City Comic-Con, and then, of course, LA later on at the end of the year.
Okay. So let me ask you this. With what you've got so far, because you've got your universe building, quite a bit here. You've gone from Origins to your team story now. Whenever you have all this in print, you have it at the table, what is going to be your pitch? How are you going to bring people over to the table and say, look, I need all eyes over here right now. I need everyone to pay attention to what I've got. What is your pitch on that?
I actually don't bring people in. They kind of walk up to the table, honestly. But I do have a big banner behind me as well that says Latina Superheroes, to be fair. And originally before that, it was said Jalisco. So anybody from Mexico, or especially from Jalisco, they walked up right away. And they're like, what is this, right? And then they calmed down once I told them what it was. But it's just marketing, right? I'm just there. And if they ask you what are these colorful, graphic novels that look really pretty because they're very Disney, right? Disney looking, even though it's really Disney and manga put together. Then it works. My pitch is it's the first Latina superhero team in comic book history. These are each origin stories, and then this is the origin story of how they become a team as well.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to kind of pick on Braden just a little bit. I mean, pick Braden's brain is what I mean. Not pick on him.
You could pick on him.
We'll see.
But with your comic, with It Was Nobody, because that's the more current one, and that's the one that you got in. Which, by the way, the physical copy, just from the picture you showed, looks amazing. I'm sure in person looks even better.
Yeah, that cover is gonna like.
I'm sure that didn't do anything with the colorist or anything. It had nothing to do with that. Right?
Yeah, no, definitely
not. Well, my question is kind of the same thing, but in a different format. Is whenever you're at cons with that book, how do you push that? How do you promote that book? Because it's got a very dark texture to it. How do you promote that without scaring people away? Because you don't want them running and crying over in the corner in the fetal position if you give too much information.
Well, you know, a lot of the things I like to put a lot of heart in my books. So, like wherever there's like where people are always dealing with something, or there's something that, you know, that's pretty relatable, you know, and a lot of the times, you know, so It Was Nobody has been my fastest funding campaign. I funded it day 3. And so, but I didn't have like a big goal. Like I usually, as an indie guy, I run smaller campaigns for just like print runs. So like my book orders, I only order like 250 books, you know, if that. This is the most I've ordered this time. But It Was Nobody funded 3 days, and I think people just like the idea of, you know, it's a heartfelt horror about a kid who befriends a monster. And usually that seemed to, you know, to work, and people seem to like the idea of like, you know, and another thing I talk about is like nowadays when people are looking at horror, a lot of the new horror stuff coming out it's not about like what we were afraid of, you know, the monsters under our bed,
right?
Or in the closet. It's people. Like people are scarier than monsters nowadays, and like you see that with like a lot of the newer movies coming out, like a Black Phone. That's a good example. There's oh man, there's so many, like that Karen movie. There's and I think people just like the idea of, it's like, oh, it's not the monster that we need to be afraid of, it's the horrible people that we need to be afraid of. And a lot of the times, you know, like nowadays, that's, you know, it's true. You know, you got to worry about like a lot of nowadays, we're worried about like what people are actually capable of.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me of like the whole thing behind The Walking Dead, because it came out like while zombies were really popular, and it helped. So everyone's like, oh, it's a zombie book, and it's not. The zombies are like the MacGuffins in that whole series. It's about the people who are bad and do terrible things to each other.
Exactly.
Like, so I mean, that's that same way. And in your book, that's what I noticed. I was like, the monster wasn't that bad. It was the parents that were like, terrible.
Right. Yeah, the monster just kind of evened the playing field as far as that was concerned within that book. It was, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was very dark and twisted, yes, but it's more in your face of this actually happens, and this is how some people put it in their mind to get past certain things that are out there. So it was pretty cool that you actually put that out there in a way that it wasn't serial killer-esque like everyone else does in horror books and all. It was very, you know, the monster underneath my bed is actually protecting me from the monsters that are in the room who are actually the real people. And that's really messed up whenever you think about it, but that's a real thing that's out there. And it's, I got to applaud you for tackling this and actually getting it out there. And, you know, being funded for one thing is great and all, but I can see this book actually moving a lot more in the future once you've got more of a voice behind it, just because it's not a political statement, so you're not having to worry about that, but it's more of a, people are listening, people are watching. If you've got a voice, if you've got something that's wrong, reach out to somebody. There's always someone who can help. It's not always going to be a monster that can help, but maybe someone else can help before it becomes that bad. And I like the way that you tackled it that way.
Thank you. It's like this book, it does mean a lot to me. Like I said, it really touches me on a whole like personal level, and I put a lot of work into it. And I'm also looking at KAYDEN's campaign, and I see that we really enjoy similar art styles. My It Was Nobody book is actually done in a kind of a more kiddie art style because I kind of wanted to preserve the innocence of like, you know, children. And even though it's like dark and like gruesome, it's
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, this artist, the one that you're looking at for A La Brava, she does chibi. And like I've never had that style before. And I was like, okay, why not? Like the other ones actually all stick with the same tone,
Yeah,
right?
I love it. It reminds me of a guy I hired to do Sever. It's really similar, you know. It's great. I love like I'm trying to back a book right. I'm probably backing right now just because I already love the art.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's excuse me.
Yeah, and I'm with James that I wish I could back absolutely everything that's out there. There's just
So much.
I kind of like having
Yeah,
AC. It's too
so
hot to
much.
not have AC.
I mean, just backing stuff from people I know, I end up with like hundreds a year. So
Exactly.
It's just like I can't even read it all.
Exactly.
I'm trying to think if I had. See, this is where John comes in good because he can ask questions for me. Because I'm.
Smart.
He said he might. If it wasn't too bad, he might be back, but I don't think he's going to make it.
Probably not.
Well, he had a good enough excuse. We'll let him slide on this one.
Yeah. For this time.
This time.
But now what was I? Oh, you wanted to say something, Braden, about your first book. I can't.
Oh yeah, so because you were talking about how you wanted me to talk about why I left comics, why I came back, what makes me. So my first series, Reclaiming Godhood, I went through. Oh geez, that was my first book to ever picked up to be published by Insane Comics. If you guys know who they are, they're not a thing anymore. But and then after I left Insane, I self-published. I did 2 Kickstarters. I funded issue 2, got it out to backers, funded issue 3. And issue 3, I ran into so many problems because I had a colorist that ghosted me and stole like $1,000 from me. And it was weird because like he was so reliable. Like he completely colored the first issue of the first book, and then he just disappeared during like partway through issue 3. And because of that, like I ran into a financial rut. My book ended up being almost a year and a half late because of everything. And it was just so hard. Like I finally, Shauna Mad, if you guys are familiar with Shauna, she pulled me out of a rut and she was looking to build her starting portfolio. So she charged me pretty cheap to do the rest of the book.
Yeah.
And I was able to get it out finally. And then I was like, you know what, I'm done. Because at the time I was going through a divorce. I blamed, you know, what I was passionate about for my divorce failing. And I just went through a lot of like, I went through a lot of shit, you know.
Life.
So, but like, yeah, life punched me in the face pretty good, and I was not recovering. And I finally, like, I kind of was looking at all my friends that were, you know, they were still doing comics, all these other people that were still going on, and I kind of sat down and I was like, I really miss writing. And I gave up something of myself because I didn't want it to ruin, you know, my future relationships or anything. And then like I realized that it just made me a miserable bastard. And so I came in and I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it right. And so the first book I came back with was a few months ago. So I stopped in 2016, so I was gone for like 5-6 years, and I came back with Sever, and I was like, I want to write a book that I want to write about. And so Sever, you know, it deals with like, you know, being part of the LGBTQ community. I grew up bi, so, and it's about, you know, it's about things I love: heavy metal, like a lot of the conversations that happen in the book are things that actually happened to me in high school. Like one of the characters, like she treats her friends as closet friends. Like it's okay for them to hang out in private, but at school, if they approach her, she doesn't want to ruin her status quo, and she's like, "Oh, get away!" Like I had a friend like that, and necromancers. Who doesn't like necromancers? But I came back and I was surprised how well after being gone for so long and after how my last Kickstarter campaign, I thought Reclaiming Godhood issue 3 would have ended my career, because if you mess up on Kickstarter, it follows you and it bites you in the ass really bad. And so I came back and I was like, oh, I'm going to try. And I funded week 3, which I'm not going to complain because, it took me a full month to get Godhood all the way funded, for issue 2s and 3. And another thing I did differently is that, the last campaigns, I would do I need the money to make the book and to, print it. And that is not, I understand people and why they need to do it, but I will no longer do that because I ran into so many problems with Reclaiming Godhood. So I figured I need to level up. I need to make sure that if something happens, it's on the printer's end. That's why books get delayed. So now when I release a book on Kickstarter, it is 100% done. It's ready to be printed and shipped to you. So that's the formula I followed for these 2 campaigns. And I was just surprised at how well Sever was received because I funded it. I broke a couple of stretch goals. First time I ever got stretch goals. And it's actually and like I said, I don't do very big campaigns because I'm literally just trying to get money for printing costs. And print runs seem to do better anyways because people are like, oh, this book's fully done. I want to back it. But yeah, and I met a whole new comic community that really helped and pushed me along. Travis Gibb has got to be a freaking godsend. He helps people so much, and he doesn't even expect much back. And Chuck and everyone, and all you guys, and then I came back, and so Severed was done. I got it shipped out. It was fulfilled within the next month. As soon as I got my books, I packed them, I sent them out. I did the same with It Was Nobody. You
just got those last week.
Yeah, I just got them
because I remember you posting a video. And now they're shipped out. I'm like, whoa, that was
and
fast.
now I can start my next campaign. And I'm not gonna do I'm gonna try to do that too. It's I'm not gonna start a campaign until I know that the last one has been fully fulfilled.
Yeah.
And it's nice. It's now, and with Nobody, it was my fastest funded campaign. I funded day 3. I was shocked. I was like, I did this. and I was expecting to, honestly, everyone loves that cover. No one even wanted the alternative cover. They wanted the base cover. So I let them have so I just did the base cover and I used the backup cover and I put it on the back of the book. So, because I didn't want to waste the art because the art's still good and I love it.
You used the other one that we did for a print.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, because he sent me 2 covers and he's like, I don't know if I'm going to use color them both.
So I did one as the cover and I did one as the print. Aaron was like, the monster one's cool, and I was like, yeah, but that gives it away too much, and I really like the base cover because in the book, Nobody is amorphous, he doesn't really have a form, and you see that throughout the book, and he's always not always solid. He's liquidy. He'll move through walls, and he's just kind of And I really like that first book because, like, even though it's nobody, you can't really tell who the monster is.
Yeah.
And like the artist
way he
was,
blended everything.
yeah. The artist did great. This is actually her first published book.
Wow.
Yeah, so Quinn is awesome. Like I asked her if she was looking for work, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I charge about like $40 Canadian a page," and I was like, I'll pay you to do the full book right now.
Yeah.
So I paid for the full book, and she took a lot of really awesome creative liberties with Nobody. Like the original concept I've had of Nobody was like this weird like demon looking thing, but she took something because of her art style, and she kind of was like, I kind of took an idea of your original idea and No Face from Spirited Away, and I was like, I kind of combined them, and I came up with this, and I was like, it's freaking wonderful. I love it.
Do you have a photo, or can you show it?
I'm trying to bring it up because it's on my hard drive, which is not on my computer right now.
You could also find the Kickstarter page and play the video if you wanted.
I'm trying to like even find it.
What's the URL?
Here, let me get it real quick. I will. So I'm going to post it right here in the private chat for everyone.
Oh, okay.
It's not working for me.
I'll watch it after. It is very cute.
Yeah, like I said, I love the art style. This book just touches me on such a personal and emotional level. Like, I feel like if I want to be known for writing comics, this is the kind of stuff I want to be known for by, that I've been known for writing, is like heartfelt horror books. And
that's a hard genre to hit, is the heartfelt horror. I mean, there's either one side or the other, and you actually tackled it and succeeded in doing so, and that's pretty cool because, I mean, anybody else, there's a lot of people that say they're doing heartfelt horror, and it's like, well, you've got horror in there, it's so gory, I can't actually flip the page to find out what happens in the heartfelt side of it. And you actually made it where it was a lot less heavy on that end, shall we say.
All right, let me see. Can we see it there?
Yes, I see it.
All right. Yeah, it's kind of ain't what I want. I'm still learning this thing. I tell everybody
Well, you can definitely tell it's got that Calvin and Hobbes look to it. And then with the horror segment as well. So the heartfelt horror is right there in that one picture.
There's a lot, like when I was looking at the line art to color it, and I didn't even notice some of the stuff until I put the base color down.
Yeah, you tackled it so freaking well, man. Like,
there's all these trees inside of his body. They're like trees, and then there's stars, and then all this stuff like. And when I just looked at the black and white, I couldn't see that until I dropped that purple on top of it. And I was like, whoa, there's all this other crap in here that I didn't even notice. And then you can't really see it because of the trade dress, but there's like all these hands on the top, like reaching down and stuff. I mean, it's really neat. Oh.
What is the blue thing? What is that blue thing that's hanging above?
I'm sorry, you were cutting out. What was that?
What was that blue thing that's hanging above the kid?
Oh, that's his tongue.
No, that's on the left, right above, like by the eye.
That's like never in the book, but to me, it looks like what's that?
It looks
fish
like it's torn. Yeah, it looks like a torn curtain almost to me.
Yeah,
that too. I mean, I don't know. I just colored. I didn't know what it was, so I just colored it a little different color and made the light from his eyes kind of bounce off of it.
Yeah, I like the shine on it. It's good. Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah, and Braden didn't give me any because I always ask people, all right, what's the color direction? He's like, whatever you want to do. And
I just told him, I was like, the kid's just a blonde-haired kid.
the blonde hair.
Go for it.
I was like, great.
That is-
So
yeah, I like it. You definitely did Calvin. Like that's actually what he wears, which I think is really fun too.
Exactly.
yeah, I enjoyed that. And then the other one is it's similar, right?
Yeah.
But he's like in front of a wall, like a brick wall, and his shadow. You see the creature's shadow kind of like on the wall.
Right.
And I made that in more like earth tone colors, not so like purple. But purple's always my go-to horror color. I don't know why.
This is the thing, purple and green is actually. Yeah, which is what you did, which is really cool.
Yeah, so that's like my. But we can. Yeah, so that book you said it shipped out today.
Yep, there got all shipped out.
Nice.
I really underestimated the shipping because of how much it's increased recently. Like I shipped out 7 or 6 months ago, and I didn't think the prices were gonna jump so drastically. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to really think about international shipping my next campaign because I don't feel justified charging people
$40 for a
for a
$5 book.
Like,
yeah.
Oh man, I was like, because I only charged $9 because it was when I did Sever, it was about $10, and that was for a 40-page book, and it was Nobody's only 24, and it almost doubled, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, do you have any? For both of you guys, do you have any other projects coming out like after these projects? Like, what's the next thing? It doesn't not just comic books. I know, like Kayden, you do lots of things besides comics. So, do you have any other projects that'll be coming out or that you'll be working on soon?
Yeah, next month actually I'm shooting an industrial video for my friend. But in regards to comics, I'm doing my Princess series are actually my next series, so my phase 2 of my Phoenix Studios. It's Latina and Native American princesses put together, and it's just kind of the same thing. It's just origin, and then the team origin as well. But this one's completely all ages, whereas my superheroes are more like YA. Just because social justice themes are very much my superheroes. This one, they're very much more strategic because they're princesses, so they don't necessarily fight, but it's more like Home Alone, kind of like smart kids, because kids are actually very smart. And so not that they have to, get out of the house or whatnot or protect the house, but they need to figure out the clues, little adventures, because princesses always have adventures, in my mind at least. And so it's very, we passed the Bechdel test. There's no boy in it because there's no need to have a boy in it that has to save them. The girl can save themselves. And that's pretty much the whole thing is like they save themselves whether or not they know it, but they have a fun little adventure. They have a mascot, which I call mascot, but like little animals, that's their friend. And they're female, because if you think of any Disney princess or you think of any Disney movie, every mascot is the male. And it's really weird. And it's like, why? Really think of it like
I never even thought of that.
Like they're all boys.
Yeah.
Why can't a girl have a friend that's a girl? Like that's literally what they're telling you. And it just makes no sense to me. And so they're all girls literally just for that one reason, to be like, you can have friends that are girls.
Yeah.
I honestly like female-driven stories more than male-driven ones. A lot of my books are very Sever's very female-driven. I just feel that women make stronger characters because of what they have to deal with compared to men. So
yeah. Unfortunately, I mean it's the benefit of it, right? We have no choice. But yes, I do agree with you.
So let me ask you, Kayden, because you had brought up earlier about, you're not going to have a seat at the table, but you're going to, create your own table. And I love that, by the way. I applaud you for having that statement on there.
Thank you.
So my question is, whenever you're creating that table, how do you reach out and fill the seats in there? How do you get your artists, your colorers, your letterers? I mean, the whole thing to fill out that entire thing, because you said that you did everything on your own with self-publishing and all. How do you go about taking care of that? I mean, how do you reach out for that?
It's so much fun. Social media, like I said, I use social media a lot. And so when I was first started off in 2019, I didn't know any artist. I didn't know what pencil and color letters. You teach yourself that stuff. But you're like, okay, what's your most important? Pencil and color, are actually the most important for me. And so I went to find my penciler first. And so I went through Instagram, and there's hashtags women who draw, women who illustrate. And so I literally went through the hashtags because we all work from home, but it doesn't matter where our location is. And I started screen grabbing what I liked, or the people's work that I liked, but also I figured out my tone board because of that, right? Which is the very big eyes and the soft chins. And so, which is, I told you, it's Disney and manga put together. And so I found people that can do that, and that aren't too like high up, above the ranks that I couldn't afford them. And then I found a girl here in 2019, and I took her out for lunch, and I pitched the whole Latina superhero. Do you want to pencil Jalisco, blah, blah, blah. And she's just like, no. And I was just like, she could have told me that via email. But, in my mind,
Oh, man.
no. But she said, I will be your colorist, and I will give you a tweet, and all my followers are artists. And so she's like, so you can get everyone else from there. And it totally worked. She's like, Latina creator looking for Latina artist for Latina superhero, drop your port. And it worked. I got like 80 responses. And I went through all those 80 responses, and I got my pencil, I got my ink. And by that time I had my 3 colorists, because her and her friends. My letterist is my friend. That's my graphic designer. I made her learn how to do lettering, because it's still graphic designing. And so I got really lucky. That was all our first comic book as well, except for my inker.
Nice.
The only one that actually knew how to do comics. But we figured it out. We did, I think it looks great. And then you just keep going from there.
Yeah, you're doing really good. You said you funded week 1, and this is your first book?
No,
You're smashing. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I got really lucky. Pre-pandemic, I made 3,030 hours. And that was my first one, actually. That was Santa, my first Kickstarter, because I didn't Kickstart for high school. And so technically with this one, I did that as well. I got my 3K in like the first day. But this one I upped it to 5K because I'm getting a higher quantity now. And it doesn't cover my printing cost at all. And it covers almost half of it, but it doesn't cover it. But it's better than nothing. So it just helps. And it's a lot easier to hit 5 than say hitting 10. And so I'm doing that. And so to answer everything from there on, I just asked artists, I was like, hey, do you have a friend that wants to do it's like our color? And they all say yes, and they give me their Instagrams. And then I just told them, I warm email them. And then we go from there.
Nice.
I just want to tell you how much I appreciate all the Latino and Latino representation you're bringing, because my grandfather is actually an immigrant from Chile, and so I'm actually Latino. Like, I grew up with here in the town I live in. Like, we live in a blue state, but we live in a very red town. So I would always grow up with people throwing slurs at me, telling me to go back over the border, and it was awful. Like, growing up sucked here.
Where are you from?
I live in Port Angeles, Washington. So, like I said, we live in a very blue state, but I live in a very red town.
Yeah. Well,
so it is refreshing seeing whenever the different cultures are able to go ahead and represent as heavily as they do. I was able to have an entire Hawaiian team on one of my shows a couple months back, which was amazing because the entire team that was on there, all Hawaiian, and talking about what they can do and everything, and talking about they're looking for work and they're having trouble finding work in the U.S. And I'm like, are you serious? This is amazing stuff. How is that even possible? Are you finding an issue with some of the people that you're working with that they can't reach out and expand more in the work here, or is it kind of more in your own little circle there that you only work with, and that everybody's wanting to work with in that circle, and nobody's expanding because nobody's accepting in there? Because that's not right if they're not, because there's so much material that's out there that people don't even see. It opened my eyes with the Hawaiian team that was on there. I couldn't believe their culture on paper. And now I see that. I was looking at your campaign on here, and I see the Latina culture on paper. And it's amazing that you're able to transpire that onto paper that way. And that needs to happen more often. So
for sure,
it's just one of those things that I would like to see more of out there and see more people get more exposure for.
Yeah. To answer your question, a lot of them are actually based in Mexico. My first Jalisco, everyone was here and actually in LA. So I got really lucky. They were Latina. They're always Latina. But they're all LA based. But it didn't really matter, honestly. And then we had pandemic and everyone went their own ways, which is fine. Some people had to go back home for their own reasons. And so we continued regardless of the comics. But it's easier for me, because of my price points, I do get a lot of Mexican artists. Because then because of the price point, of course, here obviously US we have to pay a lot more, but it's also they're faster. So I'm very, very lucky because they really have the money, and it's just like, great, let me be done like actually in 3 months, since even though they have a 6-month contract. And so like my stuff comes a lot faster. Every quarter I have a new book coming out, which is really nice. I try to since I ramped up my production, and so I'm very, very fortunate because right now I have 4 books, and then next month 5 books start. And so like it's just it's just money in, money out. But like if they want to stay on, they stay on. A lot of them though, they get hired, they get better stuff, honestly, which is a good thing. Like I'm actually very happy. They get better paying gigs and just higher up, like better caliber gigs as well in my independent publishing company.
And all of these books, they're not like single issue floppies, right? Like what's your average page count on these books?
100. They're graphic novels, so it's the complete story. But the average is 100 because I started off with 75, then I kept getting more and more. This one that's coming out is 125, I believe.
Nice.
Nice.
I love backing graphic novels too, because graphic novels are just they're better than just getting single issues.
Because at least you get the whole story at once. Like,
you get 100. Who's not going to want to back a book that's 120 pages and is done?
Yeah, it's true, and then it's easier, and it looks prettier, and it won't,
you can put it on a shelf behind you, and it looks good. Yeah. But I want to thank you both for coming on the show. Our next segment is our fan cast, where we pick I guess a storyline or a book, and we decide who we wanted to cast in those parts. And you're welcome to stay. We usually have more people, so it's just going to be me and Phil. But like last week, the guys stuck around and they put in their little input when we said the characters, who they thought. This week we're doing back in 1995. Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale did a book for Image. It was not for Image, for Marvel. It was Wolverine and Gambit Victims. So we're going to fan cast that if they were going to make that into a movie. The storyline is about takes place in London. There's these people, someone's killing these women, so they think it's Jack the Ripper's back. One of the victims is somebody from Gambit's past, so he goes to investigate it, and it looks like it's Wolverine who's killing these women. So it's an interesting story. So we're gonna. I think I listed like maybe 6 main characters from it. There's like 2 that are cameos, and we're just going to talk about who we think would fit these roles. So, like I said, if you just want to stay and you can join the chat. If not, thank you for coming. It was great talking to you guys again. And I'll be sure to share out all the stuff again, Kayden, for A La Brava. There's like 2 weeks left. So, and do you have stretch goals and stuff? I didn't even look.
I do, yeah. I mean, I'm not posting much, honestly, on that, just because I'm happy that I have that 5 and I have to do my work. But yeah, my first stretch goal is for 7,777, and that everybody that once we attain it, everybody that's a backer gets a shot glass, an A La Brava shot glass. So it's a really fun, and I can throw it in with the book or whatever, so it's a lot easier to package as well, which is why I kind of chose a shot glass. But yeah, it's on its way. I'm we'll see.
Awesome.
Yeah, I am gonna bow out though because I don't know.
I will. Yeah, because I've never read the series you guys are talking about.
Well, you don't know Wolverine and Gambit.
I do. It's probably just gonna be safe. It's gonna be the actual villain is my answer. But no, I don't. I don't know either.
All right. Well, it was good talking to you guys. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us, as always.
And always welcome to come back and just talk comics and stuff. So
thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank y'all very much.
All right, Phil. It looks like it's just going to be us talking about Wolverine Gambit Victims. First of all, did you read it?
I did.
And what did you think of this book? I mean, I think this was prior to them 2 doing the Batman stuff, if I'm not
right.
So this is early Jeph Loeb, Tim Sale kind of
right. I mean, it's a dark story because, like you said, it's the thought of Jack the Ripper coming in and killing these women, and ends up being Wolverine, but he isn't doing it because he's being controlled. So it's a very messed up situation on that because, you know, Wolverine is widely known, one of the X-Men, all that stuff. And so whenever he's confronted, how do you take down the Wolverine, for one thing? If you're the police, how do you take down that one?
Yeah. And
they couldn't even take down Gambit. So,
and one of the things I noticed, this was during the time period where Wolverine did not have his adamantium. So
right.
He had the bone claws. And depending on who was doing the X-Men books at that time, some of the stories he was very feral at that time. So
yes.
And they kind of mention it in that book where he was still living outside the man. He was not living in the mansion. He was living on the grounds of the mansion.
Right.
So this is his very feral, animalistic time period. So that's also, you got to put that in with it. But the opening scene, we see Gambit is robbing this place, and Rogue is there to stop him.
Yeah.
So I'm one of these. I don't know if you saw last week. I like to find odd, like not well-known actors really for these parts. So when I was thinking of Gambit, there was a guy from. What tech was he on? Oh, he was just in Moon Knight. He played this character, Anton Magna. I don't know. He was just not a main character. He was just like a bit part. But his name is Gaspard Ulliel. He's a French actor.
Okay.
And when I was looking through him, he was also in Hannibal Rising. He played young Hannibal in that, if you ever seen that movie.
Yep.
But he died in January in a skiing accident. So I was like, man, now I got to think of somebody else. So the other guy I thought of was Nick Bateman. He was in. The only reason I thought of him is because I just saw this the other day, Hobo with a Shotgun.
Yeah.
That he plays in, and so it's just kind of, he's a French Canadian actor. So I was kind of going with somebody with that French kind of thing, because all through the movie, everyone who he met through the book, thought he was French, and he'd have to correct him and tell him that he's, but that was my Gambit. For Rogue, I picked Elizabeth Gillies, and I forgot to write down what she's in. I was gonna like Google her really quick because I was writing this stuff down and doing 5 million things. I think she was the only one. I just saw her in something not long ago either. That's usually what I do. Whoever's on my mind at that moment.
Yeah, I'm having to start.
Oh, she did the voice of Catwoman in Catwoman Hunted. That's probably where I heard her. That's on, and she's been in lots of, like, Victorious. That's where she was on Victorious, if you remember that show. It was a Disney or something. It was one of those teen kids shows. And she was also in Vacation when they remade that movie. That meme always comes out of.
Oh, okay.
She was the sister in that. So that's who I had picked for those two roles. Did you have any thoughts on either?
I can never remember actors' names whenever I need them. Where I can just pull them out of thin air. I'm having to try to keep notebooks around, and I'm not utilizing them all the time. So this is one of those times. But there's one that I'm thinking of. He was in Vampire Diaries, I believe. One of the main characters in there. I thought he would be a good look and feel for Gambit for this particular role because of the style that it is.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed like he would do better on that. And I cannot remember his name to save my life right now. But that's one of the main ones that I immediately thought of whenever I started reading the book on this. And unfortunately, with Wolverine, I just can't get past Hugh Jackman. I mean, that's just it's
hard. It was hard because I And also, I tried to not do the things like everybody on the internet wants them to be cast.
Right.
So for Wolverine, I went and I picked out Milo Gibson, which is Mel Gibson's son.
Right.
He was in Hacksaw Ridge, a couple other things I don't remember. All the Devil's Men, I don't know. And I just thought he kind of, he's not a well-known actor. Goes with my thing. Try to stay away from, your top. And I think he kind of fits that. He's not real big. He's not like super. He's only like 5'9".
Right.
So it kind of fits that a little bit better. I figure if he puts a little bit, I mean, he's not well built. Like he's not, but neither was Hugh Jackman at first either. So, but exactly. I mean, it'd be easy to put muscle on and kind of look a little bit tougher.
Yeah, when you look at the first X-Men movie and then you watch, later on as the movies progressed and Hugh Jackman was in there as Wolverine, you can see the beef up big time.
Yeah. Because he didn't really know he was going to be Wolverine until the last minute in that first one. So
right.
That kind of. And the actual villains in this one, there's two. Arcade.
Yep.
And I had cast Chris O'Dowd as Arcade because I want somebody who's kind of funny and strange, and so I love Chris O'Dowd on the IT what is that? The IT Crowd from BBC. I love that show. So that I thought he was somebody, and then Lady Mastermind. I can't think. I gotta check this out real quick because again, for some reason, the women I never wrote down what they were in. I don't know why. Like what I knew them from. Sometimes I know them, and
well, I can't think of his name right offhand, and I don't know what's wrong with me for not thinking of it. But the villain on Fifth Element. I think he'd be a good one for Arcade.
Oh, yeah, I know who you mean. But for Lady Mastermind, I picked Sydney Sweeney. She's on Everything Sucks. If you saw it on Netflix, she's been on The Handmaid's Tale, Euphoria. I don't know, like a bunch of stuff. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay.
So I thought that she, because that's a role that not many people know of that character.
Right.
I don't know if this was her debut, because you would think it must have been, because when she introduces herself to Wolverine and Logan, to Logan, and she uses her real name, and they don't put two and two together to who it is. So this must have been like their first connection to her. But I don't even know if they do actually meet her in there, except for when I think she's a robot, because I think she disappears when they come and get Arcade. So I don't even know if they knew she was around.
Right.
So, and then there was just a couple other, I don't even think I even thought who would play the other parts. I thought I did, but I didn't write them down. But there was a police, an inspector from, and then the love interest of Gambit in this from when he was younger during that flashback, who ended up being one of the ones who were killed. That was Officer Alexandra Davies, and then Yukio. Is that her name?
Yeah.
She has a little cameo.
Right.
And I was like, we might as well just go with the same person who played her in Logan. Oh, not in Logan, but in that Wolverine movie, because I liked her as that character anyway. So, but that was my fan cast for the movie this week. I'm sure this was John's pick, and he's not here, so he's probably gonna want to fill us in who he picked.
Probably
right. For next week, though, I think we're going to go with that Midnight Suns idea.
Yes.
So I'll research that. Got to figure out which version of them we want to do. I'm probably thinking of kind of when they first debuted back in the 90s. I can find that mini series. So it was like the supernatural Fantastic Four. So you had Blade, you had Ghost Rider. Who else was in that? I think Johnny Blaze, with Ghost Rider and Johnny Blaze. That was the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider.
Right. Morbius.
Yeah. So
There
I'm
was
try to
quite a few different ones in there.
Yeah, and Darkhold. That's when Darkhold had its
Right.
own book. So that group, I think that was what's his name's daughter, the one that hunts the monsters. I can't
Yep.
remember his name.
Elsa Bloodstone.
Yeah, Bloodstone. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll have that for you next week. I'm going to try to work this a little bit better. I'm maybe ask everybody ahead of time, and I'm going to make little graphics so we can show people who we're talking about, like as we do this. So it might be a little bit easier to say, "Oh, I know who that person is." You know,
Exactly.
But that's all I have. If you have anything else for this week that you wanted to share.
Just that I had mentioned, I believe, before the show that there was just a lot of information that's out there, comic book related, all kinds of things. I just haven't had time to go through all the tabs that I've got open. So hopefully I'll have more information about all that coming into next week, because there's a lot of movement going on right now and a lot of things that are happening. One thing that I will bring up is that the official statement for Justice League as of right now with the Flash movie is that it will be on HBO Max only. It will not be going to theaters in lieu of Ezra being on the run and everything. And then they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do from there, because the movie is made, completed, done, and they're going to release it because they kind of have to, because they already put all this money into it. And they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do from there. My thoughts on that is they're going to have to bring Grant in at some point and have him take over on a different timeline. I mean, it's easy to do with the Flash, and just take over from there, because all the fans want Grant in there anyway.
And the good part is they've already sowed that seed on the show, because Grant is the one who gave Ezra's character the name The Flash. Like, they did not call him that before that. So when they met on that show, it kind of gave you he is out there in the same multiverse. So
Exactly.
I just hope they get rid of that armor suit. I can't stand that suit.
Yeah, I agree.
That was terrible.
I agree. And we keep getting more and more information about, Kingpin from the series is going to be coming back. They're keeping the same actor. They're keeping the same actor for Daredevil, of course. Punisher has been named as, they're keeping him coming back. Everybody's coming back. The only one that they haven't named as of yet, and it's kind of a no-brainer, big surprise, quote unquote, for everybody, is Iron Fist. We don't know who or what's going to be happening with that.
But have they said that what's his name's going to come back as Luke Cage?
Yes, they said he's coming back.
I wasn't sure, since he does Evil
Yeah, he's doing that along with Kristen. What's her name, coming back as
Kristen Ritter? Well, she is that role. Like that was a perfect.
Well, exactly, and the chemistry that they had together worked so well that they have to bring back the same guy for Luke Cage on that one.
Yeah.
But you're going to see a lot of intermixings on that with future movies that are coming up. I'm just waiting to see exactly how those are going to play in, having the Defenders in there, because there's possibilities there, but we got to see how they play that out.
Yeah, and as far as I know, the Netflix stuff is still like canon. So the Disney Plus shows are gonna like kind of just take over from where those left off. So, and I sort of figured once they put them on Disney Plus that they were gonna just follow those same things, and they brought back all the same cast. So like, why would you bring back the same cast and then reboot it? You would confuse people. But it's good because I want to see that season 4 of Daredevil.
Right. I don't think they're going to fully reboot it. I think they're going to do something where they
fit it into the MCU better.
Yeah, it's got to fit into the MCU, and they're going to have to change up something with Iron Fist, because that was the weakest link in the Defenders.
I liked it though. I was especially after like that next season looked like it was finally going to get good.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like,
well, I mean, as a series, it just wasn't as strong as the other ones, but it had a good storyline. But as far as playing into the Defenders, it just didn't have the right chemistry as far as everyone was concerned with that.
Because they didn't play up the Iron Fist. I mean, they didn't like, Luke Cage and the Iron Fist. That's like Power Man and Iron Fist. That goes way back. Like those should have been the two that you made sure worked together before you did anything else.
Exactly. But now with Colleen Wing coming into it and having her
her
powers going into, if we get to see more of that, that's going to be pretty nice if they do it the right way.
I remember when they were making Shang-Chi, they wanted her to play that part, and she turned it down because she's like, well, if they decide to make more of these Netflix shows, I want to still be able to play whatever, I can't think of her name, but yeah.
Exactly. One last thing that I want to talk about before we take off, because I know we got just a hair more time. There is a Kickstarter that is out there right now. I'll go ahead and backtrack just a moment, because whenever Keanu Reeves did Berserker, it opened up a whirlwind of possibilities for everybody to jump in and do some things. And some other people have tried it, and it's done, somewhat well and everything. There's one going on right now called Exiled, and it actually has Wesley Snipes is doing his own character in here that he wanted to do from years and years back. The character is resembling of Blade, but not. You'll have to look at it to see. It's got similarities in there, but not enough where you're going, it's just the same thing over again.
Yeah.
I think it's very cool, because people need to go over there and check it out and click on the videos that are attached, or find the videos that Wesley Snipes has done. Start finding out how many people are in the pop culture industry that actually enjoy comics. It is amazing. And Wesley Snipes has a serious passion for this industry, more so than he does for the movie industry. And he even mentions that in one of the videos that I thought was very interesting, because he said he would rather have a career in comics now, with everything finishing up in the movie industry. And I'm like, wow, that's saying something there, because that's huge. And I think it's one of those things we need to start taking a look at and seeing how the pop culture industry is playing into everything else, because they're not the only ones with movies and all. Wrestling, music bands, I mean, it's all kinds of things that's involved in this. Start looking at the similarities and people who are interested in the comics, and start inviting them over to our side to see some things and see what happens. If anybody's watching this or listening to this later on, share it with everybody so that we can catch more of those ears over there and find out who's got what's going on, and get them involved in what's happening here, and expand and get that bigger voice out there. Wesley Snipes is working on what Keanu started, and I think it's very cool, and applaud him for doing so. And I want to keep seeing that kind of thing coming, because the more people hit Kickstarter and hit crowdfunding like that, it creates that bigger spotlight for everyone else involved that has any kind of projects.
Yeah, I can remember when Berserk came out, and it became like this big divide whether these celebrities should come on Kickstarter, because they have the money, they can just make the book if they wanted to. And so you had that argument that, he's taking they're taking money away from us smaller people, but then you also, but they're drawing in people who would not have came to Kickstarter otherwise.
Exactly.
And it shares like all the other stuff. So if you're going down, it's like, oh, well, that looks interesting. Let me see what that's about. I don't, and now I noticed with this one, I don't hear much of that at all. Like people arguing about whether Wesley Snipes should be making comic books on Kickstarter.
Right.
So I think since more and more of people have done that, it kind of, ease away. Because now I get a lot of times where if comic book professionals come on and kickstart their book, well, I hate to tell you, even those top tier comic book artists still need to work. Like they're not rich by any. I mean, I talk to Brett Booth a lot, and Brett's one of the top guys in the industry, and he still has to hustle to get work. Because and he's doing Spawn every month. Plus, he's got to do all this other stuff. I don't know how many times I see people have a Joe Schmo indie book, and as a Brett Booth cover, I'm like, man, I know how much that costs. Because Brett doesn't do commissions. He doesn't do cons or anything like that.
Right.
Him and Jess live out in the middle of nowhere, Texas. But yeah, He
And the fact that you mentioned about, having to do the hustle, because that ties into the entire show that we had tonight, because you've got Kayden and you got Braden who are doing the hustle and doing what they need to get their word out and get their stuff, put out there, because they don't have the influence that some of these major actors and stuff like this do, but yet they're still successfully funding. They're still successfully moving forward in all of this. And that's what you have to look at. As long as you put the passion into your work and do your work on there, and then put that same passion into pushing it or getting it pushed, then as long as you got to put your heart and soul into what you're doing. If you don't, it's not going to be just thrown out on the grill and expected to cook without some fire.
Yeah, exactly. But had a great show tonight. Thankfully you're here. I know you had missed the last 2 weeks.
Right.
Because if you weren't here, I would have been a pretty pitiful show. Because I'd like to have other people on because I'm not a good speaker, and
that's all good.
And so I like to I like to put the shows together and have other people do the talking, I guess. But thanks for being here this week. Hopefully next week we can be back to a full group. Let me grab my. Oh, I can't. I had my calendar right here so I could reach it, but of course it fell during the show. So next week we have I guess I could be on camera so people can see me. His name's D. Nick. He's a music comic book person. He does a little bit of both, and he has a thing called Microphone Misfits. So we'll be talking to him about some music, some comic books.
Nice.
And see how that goes on the Friday show this week. I have Lawrence James King on. He has a book on Kickstarter right now. I can't think what eviction something. I can't read my own handwriting. So, Friday night we'll be back with that show, and that's our Kickstarter Indiegogo crowdfund your book kind of show where we go over all that stuff. And then I said next week we'll have D. Nick with us, so it'll be interesting. On this show, I like to try to bring in some more than just comic book people, I guess.
Absolutely.
Try to get again, great show. Thanks for stopping by. I want to thank again Braden Cox for stopping by. His book he just released. I guess he finally shipped it out today. Got it shipped out. It was Nobody, and look for it was nothing, and then it was nowhere. We're making him make these other 3 books because I need to know what happened to the kid.
Exactly.
So you can't just let this kid live alone now with this monster in him. So
no pressure on Braden or anything, but it's a trilogy now.
Yeah, at least a trilogy. And also KAYDEN PHOENIX and her book A La Brava, the first Latino superhero team. That's on Kickstarter for another 2 weeks. So be sure to check that out. I put the links in the messages, and I'll be sure to share it out in the show notes for everybody who wants to check that out. And I really hope you do. She was on our Friday show a couple weeks ago, and I really got to talk to her about that whole thing. And it's 5. This is her 6th graphic novel of the series. She did it kind of like the MCU, where each character had their own book, origin book, and then brought together to make the super team. So, again, thanks for those guys for being here. Phil, where can everyone find you out in this crazy world of the interwebs?
Best place to find me still is Phil Locklear on Facebook. You'll find my beautiful mug on there. It may be without the sunglasses and the hat, but I may have to change that. I think I'm going to have to put a more current picture on there. But there's that, and then there's Dark Enterprises, Dark with DARKE Enterprises.com, and that actually has everything.
It's 2 E's.
Yep. So there's Dark with an E at the end of it, and then Enterprises. So it looks like Darky Prizes. Yeah.
Darky Prizes. Okay, that's cool. And of course, you can find me most places at JW Sims or at Hooligan Alley. If you want to get a hold of us on the show, we're on Twitter at Comic Geek Show. I always got to think is Comic Book Geeks was already taken for some reason. So at Comic Geeks Show at Twitter. Just stop by, follow us, like us, do all that fun stuff, and be back next week. See you guys.
Thank you much.